to the DMF. I am your host, Justin Yachts, and this is episode 40. So, on this episode, we're going to talk about, I want to talk about how it feels to do 40 episodes. We're going to discuss some books I read, some films, and I'm going to take on a controversial, as well as The Mandalorian, but we are also going to take on this controversial subject and topic of defund the police. And I'm going to look at it from both sides, and I'm going to tell you what I think it means and where the dangers of it lie. So stay tuned. So let's talk about 40 episodes. Wow. It's been almost 6 months. I started this on June 19th, and I've tried to be consistent every week. And I did more episodes as I got more comfortable, and here we are at 40. That's amazing. I hope to end the year with 50. But I want to say thank you to everyone who has listened. And 40 episodes. That still amazes me. But it just goes to show that if you start at something and you work at it, you can have 40 episodes. You know, it's not undoable. First time I was thinking about it, I was just like, can I do this? And I was just like, yes, I can. And so here we are, and I mean, probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. Beeps. I've got everything turned off. I have it on silent and I'm still getting beeps. That's amazing. Well, what can you do? So 40 episodes. Yes. I mean, I hope to do this for many years to come, so we're just getting started here, and I've got many interviews hopefully to come, and special subjects, not just on wrestling, but I hope to go back and do some film. I hope to do entrepreneurs. I hope to bring in as many different people and different ideas as I can as I grow this. As far as I'm concerned, the DMF is inclusive. It stands for everything that I want to talk about. So, that's amazing, though. I'm sorry. It just, it's nice to know that, I started this and I was nervous, and I've done it, and now I have 40 episodes under my belt, and I hope to get better and just more concise and bring in more guests and just continue to entertain and enlighten and inform you, no matter how that may be. I mean, I hope to also bring in YouTube. That's a little slower than I'd like, but I really want to do it right. I don't want to just put it out there. And it's been hard because with YouTube, you have the video aspect of it. So it needs to look a certain way. With here, I'm just dealing with audio. And, I outline scripts and I have everything written down that I want to talk about, but so it's a little different. When I first started off, I just wanted to do, first I was doing, basically a movie, separate movies individually, and I realized that I do want to go back to that format, but I don't want that. I wanted to talk about movies, but maybe not so in depth, because that took like weeks. Sometimes I was, researching for 2 weeks straight on something, and it was like, okay, now I gotta, do this. And the more, I realized that the more I did, the better I could be at it. So that's just a little bit of that, and as I said, thank you. So let's move on to books I read. So this is going to be a little different here, because I'm going to actually put in a book that I haven't read, but someone else read. But let's start off with a book that I did read. I finished The Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhiani. I had read it before, but now reading it again after this pandemic and after all this meditation and all this different ideas I have about that topic has come in, I feel more comfortable with the book. And I feel like I understand more. And it's almost more of a review. But you're looking at it from a different perspective. I like his idea to meditation. His idea to meditation is different than a lot of ideas of meditation. Most ideas of meditation are to clear the mind, and he believes in using the mind. And he talks about gratitude. He talks about, wow, I just went blank. Gratitude, forgiveness. He said that when he was hooked up Vishen to all these electrodes, the highest response that brought in the alpha waves was forgiveness. And I thought that was interesting. Forgiveness was the most powerful. I wonder if that goes into gamma waves. Because, as we said in previous episode, long time ago, 6 months ago, that was probably one of my earlier episodes when I went through alpha, delta, beta, and wow, I forget my own things. Well, gamma was one of the delta, beta, alpha, and gamma. I can't believe I have to look this up. But here's the thing, when you're talking about all these things, you don't know what you're going to talk about. I mean, you have an idea of what you're talking about, but then you go off into with this 40th episode. I just wanted to kind of explain a little bit more of what some of that was. Let's see here. Yes, but gamma waves, that is the highest. For some reason, I'm not getting it. This is so frustrating. When you need something and you can't find it. Well, okay, here we go. Alpha waves, we have beta waves, we have theta waves, delta waves, then we have gamma waves. And one of the highest was forgiveness. So I always try to think about that now. Forgiveness. What kind of waves is happening when I forgive? So I recommend you read this book. It's really interesting. He really puts things into perspective. Here's somebody who, got a job right out of college, was working for Bill Gates, and he wasn't happy, and he ended up getting fired, and then he ended up taking up a little dial-up job, doing, telemarketing stuff. And he did that, and that and then he discovered meditation. Meditation brought him to all these things, and he created Mind Valley, which, if you aren't familiar with Mind Valley, I suggest you type it in. There's different courses. I have some from Marissa Peer and Christine Marie Sheldon. These are wonderful teachers that you can learn a lot from, but his book is really just a really encompassing of all those ideas, and talking about we look back at Steve Jobs and you talk about think differently. Well, in some ways he's kind of continuing that same thought process, and he goes into religion. It's like there's things you can take from the Western religions and the Eastern religions and form your own religion, as opposed to just following what's been what is your idea of marriage? What is your idea of happiness? What is your idea? What is that idea? And go for that, as opposed to it being defined. And he calls those rules, which stands for bull, sh. You know what I'm talking about. I try not to curse on here, so that's one of the things that I said I wasn't going to do. I wasn't going to curse. So he came up with that, the rules, and it's like, here's a rule: go to school, get a better job. Okay, that might work for someone, but it might not work for you. Maybe your job is something else. Maybe your job is going somewhere else. Maybe your job is going to another country and teaching them something. Perhaps it's not always quantified by a degree in academics or in academia. So those are some of the things that he talks about, and it's just a fascinating book. This is my second time reading it, and I think I might read it a third time because I enjoyed it so much. I'm going to read his newest book that came out, I believe, this year, and yeah, please read The Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhiani. Wonderful book. This might be one of my favorite books I've ever read, and that's covering a lot of ground. The second book I want to talk about, it's not a book I actually read, it's a book that my mother read, and it's called The Omnivore's Dilemma, A Natural History of 4 Meals by Michael Pollan. This is an interesting book because it discusses how our food is coming to us. It's discussing how things like how they're fattening up the cow so much. And one of the things I didn't know about is the corn. They're feeding them corn instead of grass. And cows don't even like corn, but they're force feeding them this thing. These are the things that, now this book was written in 2006, and this is the young adults version. It's not the actual adult version, which I think I'm going to track this book down and read that. But he's written several books. He's a very interesting character. You can see interviews with him, and he's talked about the benefits of psychedelics, which after Nixon kind of nixed all research from the government on psychedelics. And we're finding more and more with psychedelics that it's able to help with concussions. It's able to help with an innumerable amount of things. I haven't done the exact research because I wasn't planning on going into this topic right now. I wanted to really talk about the thing, but Omnivore's Dilemma, I like just kind of scanned a little bit of it, and it talked about, salmon and how it's, basically, he talked about Whole Foods and where they're going, who their supplier is. Is it actually organic? No, it's not. They're not letting the chickens run around. They are in cages. But they are not feeding them corn. They are feeding them different things. Now, there are some farmers who do allow their animals to roam free. So there are some people doing this. And it looks like a very interesting book. Another book that I came across, I haven't read it, but I believe it's Sugar, Salt, and Fats. And it's all about how pretty much food companies are masking these agents and using them as masking agents to taste and to things, and they feel as if they're not really doing anything wrong. They're kind of just serving the public what they want, which in some ways you could say is true. I mean, if we stopped buying this stuff and it didn't make money, people wouldn't do that. But the problem is with a lot of things, like back in the day, you would eat the whole, people don't want to eat an entire cow, They just want little bits and pieces. So that's kind of how we got on this road. But it sounds like a fascinating book, and I am definitely going to find a chance to read it. Another book I finished was Pam Grout's E Square, and as I said before, a lot of fascinating subjects and experiments you can do to test how things work in the universe. And it's quite astounding at some of the things that you can see with this book. So I recommend reading that book as well. I recommend reading all these books. So those are the books I read. And when we come back, I'm going to discuss the films. So the first film I want to talk about is Mulan, and the new movie that came out in 2020. Now, it just came to Disney Plus, and I was like, as soon as it came to Disney Plus, I was going to sit down and watch it. And I did, and I thoroughly enjoyed this film. Let's talk a little bit about who directed it. It's directed by Nikki Caro. She directed Whale Rider, North Country with Charlize Theron, McFarland USA, and The Zookeeper's Wife. That was with Jessica Chastain. It stars Yifei Liu, Donnie Yen, who's an amazing martial artist. Zima plays the father. Jason Scott Lee plays Bori Khan. Yosan An and Miami Gong Li plays this sorceress, and Jet Li plays, I believe, the king. The music is done by Harry Gregson Williams, and I loved this. This score. It's actually a score I've gone back and I've listened to, and I've really enjoyed. And I like Harry Gregson's Williamson's scores. He did Wonder Woman, and he did some of the film Shame. So I like his taste and the sounds he uses, and he's got such a, it's such a dynamic sound. For those that want kind of the music that just kind of blends into the background, I wouldn't say he's for you. But for somebody that like really enjoys good scoring, that to me, I liked what he did. I can't really talk about this until I get into the spoilers, but I think this is a great film. It's not a musical. The original Disney film is a musical and more of a comedy. This is more of a drama and a coming-of-age story. And I don't think I can go any further into this film without going into spoilers, and I don't want to spoil it for somebody, so I am going to go to spoilers now. Okay, you've been warned. I like this film. I like the scenes. I like the scene where she finally lets her hair down and she's like, I am a woman and I'm going to go fight this battle. And I'm not going to hide behind being a man. Whereas in the Disney film, they kind of discover that she's a woman. She doesn't really have the realization that she's going to just do it and be a woman and take the consequences, even though that could be death or expulsion. So I like this revelation more because she gets to, make the decision. Whereas in the other one, she's just kind of discovered. So this one is such more of a coming-of-age story. We see that she's really good at martial arts at a very early age. And we see that she has to hide it. You could say she's kind of a tomboy, but I don't think she's more of a tomboy. She's just somebody that, is different than most of the women in this time period, especially in feudal China. So I like how they introduced that aspect to it. The battles are really good. The ending kind of wraps up fast, but the Disney movie did the same exact thing. Now there's no talking dragon. There is a dragon that's following her. I guess that's Mushu, but there's no jive talking character who's going to sing songs and do things like that. There's no I'll make a man out of how someday I'll make a man out of you, that song. There's no Donny Osmond, even though there is a Donnie Yen, and he plays one of the commanding officers, and he kind of notices that she's different. She has like a romantic interest in there, and they have a lot of good chemistry there. I liked it. I thought it was shot well. A lot of people didn't like this film. After seeing it myself, I don't really see what their problems are. I feel like if you nitpick it, yeah, you could see that. But I didn't mind Aladdin either. The things I didn't like, but who doesn't? There are very few films that I'm going to see and be like, I agree with every single thing. But I thought this was very serviceable. It gives children and young girls something to look up to because she's a strong character. I would kind of compare her to Moana, where she stands above the test. She stands for something, and she's willing to fight for that. And here she is hiding, and there's a point where she doesn't want to take a shower because no, she's a woman, so she's out bathing in the thing, and a guy comes there and kind of wants to be friends with her, and she's like, we can never be friends. And it's not because she doesn't want to be friends, it's because she has to hide everything. And there's a point where she meets the sorceress, and the sorceress kind of convinces her to change. And she finally is just like, that's it. And we see her take off her armor, and she lets her hair down, and she goes, and she, takes care of business. I really enjoyed this. This is a movie I'm probably going to go back and watch. I thought this was one of the better live action ones. As I've said before, I did not like The Lion King, the last year's version, but I like this. I thought this was good. This is what I wanted it to be, and I think it's good. It's not a musical. It's not going to have her singing Reflection, but Reflection is in there at the end credits, so I thought it was good. So I recommend watching Mulan. So go see it. Now, the next film I'm going to talk about, this might be my favorite film next to Tenet of this year, and that is Mank, directed by David Fincher. And this was on Netflix, and this is about the story of Herman J. Mankiewicz and how he came to write Citizen Kane. And it's all about the backstory and William Randolph Hearst and all those characters, and it's just an amazing film. I so enjoyed this film. This was my favorite film of 2020, right next to Tenet. I think this might be a little bit, they're like neck and neck there. But it's directed by David Fincher, who did The Social Network, so he's very good at, betrayal and aspects of that. He did Seven, he did Fight Club, he did a film that a lot of people don't like, but I do, Alien 3, and he's kind of disowned that. He did The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Gone Girl. I think Gone Girl is like his last cinematic film. So here he is. He comes back, 2015, I think was, or was it 2014? Was it 13? I'm not sure exactly when Gone Girl came out, but it's been a while since we've gotten a David Fincher film. And this is Mank. And the acting, let's talk about it. Gary Oldman's in it, Amanda Seyfried, Lily Collins, Joseph Cross, Charles Dance, Tuppence Middleton, Toby Leonard Moore, Tom Burke, and once again we get a fantastic score from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. These guys, they can do no wrong. Their scores are just so different and so layered and so perfect. All I can say is go see this. You may find it tedious at times, but this is a dialogue film. This is not an action film. If you want an action film, go watch Mulan. Watch the new Wonder Woman. This is real film. Well, they're all real films, but this is a film that, this is a David Fincher film, and his are dialogue based. Even when you have something like a Fight Club. I just love this film. So I'm going to talk about spoilers now because there's just no other way for me to do it other than talk about spoilers. So here we go. Alright, spoilers, you've been warned. Gary Oldman plays Herman J. Mankiewicz. He wrote Citizen Kane. Amanda Seyfried plays William Randolph Hearst's wife, who is kind of the inspiration for Charles Foster Kane's one of his wives in the film Citizen Kane. Lily Collins is kind of the person that's helping Gary Oldman's character write, because he has a car wreck early into the film. Joseph Cross, I liked him in Running with Scissors. He has a little bit part. Charles Dance plays William Randolph Hearst, and wow, he does a great job. Tuppence Middleton, that plays his wife. She's kind of sprouted out of nowhere. Well, she's done some films here and there, and here she is with this. This is a good role for Toby Leonard Moore from Billions. He is I forget this character's name. Tom Burke plays Orson Welles. So for me, Citizen Kane is one of my favorite films. So this is just this film really just touches on a lot of the things that I've known about. A lot of people always, it's never really been talked about, but Citizen Kane is basically William Randolph Hearst. Charles Foster Kane is William Randolph Hearst. And after this movie, a lot of people believe William Randolph Hearst did everything he could to sabotage the film. He probably stopped Citizen Kane from winning Best Picture, but he was not able to stop it from getting screenplay, which Herman J. Mankiewicz gets. And there's a point where they kind of were just going to pay him off or whatever, and he says he wants credit. And they're very upset, and Orson Welles is very upset because he knows this is going to hurt the film. Because it's basically going to tell everyone that it is, that they're talking about William Randolph Hearst. So, Tom Burke, who plays Orson Welles, he does a very good job at certain points. Certain points his natural dialect comes through, and it's not Orson Wellesians. He played Billy in a film called Only God Forgives. He plays like the brother of Ryan Gosling in that film. So I like his work. Charles Dance, I've loved him ever since I first saw him in Alien 3. So he's an amazing actor, and he does a great job here. And it really, the way he shoots it, it kind of feels like it's Citizen Kane. Because, you can see a lot of the scenes are almost playing tribute to Citizen Kane. There's a part where they're walking around his park, which is basically Xanadu in Citizen Kane. They talk a lot about socialism here, and FDR, and this, I think at this time Upton Sinclair was trying to run for mayor of Los Angeles, or was it governor? And the studios did everything they could to stop him. They wanted a Republican in there. And this was, FDR time. They really didn't like that FDR was kind of, attacked the banks. There's a point where the head of the studio comes in and says, "We can only pay you half wages," So it's very timely to what we're going through now. Because a lot of people feel that, socialism isn't the worst things, but you can see here, that they're using the power of the press to destroy socialism and to paint it as communism. And they have little quotes here and there, but it's very applicable to our times right now, because we're still going through this socialism argument. There's still people that are firmly against it, even though they don't really know what it means, and they try to mislead people. And you see them doing that, the studios. And William Randolph Hearst is kind of at the top of that. And one of the things that kind of causes Herman J. Mankiewicz to want to take him down is he's seeing the corruption, and he's seeing that thing, and his friend at one point dies. So he kind of wants to get back at Hearst. Plus, they're all kind of upset because the character that Amanda Seyfried, they think that, she comes off bad in this. And he has a meeting with her and he says, "It wasn't about you. I didn't want to hurt you." this is, to me, this is the best film of the year. This is the film that should win the Oscar. I don't know if it will. It doesn't look like it will. It looks like the one about the 6, the 5, the Central Park 5. Yeah, I think that's what it is. I forget what the name of the film is on Netflix, but this is the film that should win. Mank. It's all about movie making and the world of that, and it introduces all the politics that we're going through at this time, right now. You know, a lot of people are looking for FDR, and we don't have an FDR. And here you can see this is when they had FDR, and you can tell all the powerful wanted to destroy him, and he was able to upset them, you know. But I really like this film. I can't keep saying I keep saying that, but it's an amazing film. The tone, it just feels like almost the successor to Citizen Kane, even though it's showing the backstory of Citizen Kane, and the way it's shot, and the black and white, and just such good stuff. If you want to see a great film, see Mank. I may have to do a longer, in-depth discussion on Citizen Kane. I might try and do Mank and Citizen Kane together, but I need to do a lot of research on that, and at this time I don't really have the time to do that kind of research at this point in time. So those are the films I've that I've watched, and I recommend both of them. Mandalorian, Episode 6, Season 2, Chapter 14. Well, this is an amazing episode. If you haven't seen it, go see it. This is everything you've been waiting for. There's no way to talk about this without talking about spoilers. So, that's all I'm going to say. It's awesome. It's terrific. Go watch it. So, spoilers. Here we go. So, this is an interesting episode. This was directed by Robert Rodriguez. Jon Favreau wrote it, and it is called The Tragedy. And this is where Moff Gideon gets his revenge, because at the end of this episode, Grogu is captured. The child has been captured. He brings him to the planet Typhon and puts him on the Jedi, I forget what it's called, like the stone, it's like a temple, a symbol, to call out to the Jedis. And we see him kind of use all his power to, like, just, you know, calling out to somebody. So somebody, we don't know who, is probably going to come and help him. But the cool thing that happens here is Boba Fett shows up along with Fem Shard, Ming-Na Zen. Boba Fett is looking for his armor, and he wants his armor, and, you know, he threatens to, you know, attack, you know, Yoda, and he says that you have my armor, and the Empire comes and they kind of sabotage him, and we finally Boba Fett gets his armor, and the way they introduce him, it's so cool. He just shows up, shoots everybody. He doesn't have the full armor yet, because, you know, he's still got like this black robe on, so it kind of makes him look kind of weird, you know. So he doesn't look exactly like, but he's got like the, you know, the blast shield and that, you know, the familiar helmet, so, and all the gadgets. So that was cool. We finally got to see him, and then they also the ship, the Razor Crest, is destroyed in this episode. So Boba Fett is now he makes a deal with Boba Fett to, you know, he would give him the, you know, the armor if, you know, he would take care of, you know, the child, and he feels like since the child got abducted, he didn't fulfill his part of the bargain, so he is in his debt. So now it's going to be Boba Fett and I forget, she was shot in Tatooine. And so also we went and found Gina Carano's character, I forget her name, who's now probably going to go and help him find Moff Gideon. And the very end of the episode, we see them trying to get they're trying to get little baby Yoda, the child, Grogu, and he's like, using his force powers to throw the stormtroopers all around the world, all around around his cell. And Moff Gideon sees him, shows him the dark saber, and he says, you're using all your magic, but the thing that happens is it makes you very, very sleepy. And then he has one of the stormtroopers stun him, and they put him in shackles. So poor little Grogu is captured, and the Mandalorian is, hell-bent on getting him back. So we only got 2 episodes left, and that looks like that's where we're going. The rescue of little Grogu. It was really cool. Everything about it, you got to see the Empire, you got to see Moff Gideon, you got to see Boba Fett, you got these battle scenes. Robert Rodriguez, yes, that's his name, was the perfect choice for this, because he just nailed it out of the park. And we called it the tragedy, but this was the best episode, and I stayed up. I watched it at 3 o'clock when it debuted, because I was like, I have to see this immediately, and I'm probably going to have to do that on this Thursday, Friday night, or Friday morning, so I can watch it first thing, because I don't want anyone spoiling this. But this was good. It had so much heart to it, and to see Boba Fett again. Also, you saw Slave One, which we haven't seen, and so that was the big first thing. When I saw Slave One, I was like, oh my God, there he is. It's Boba Fett. He has come back. Now, one question I have is, Ahsoka, did she have him go onto the temple to trap him? Is this part of a trap? I don't think so, but just laying out the theories here. Why'd she have him go to Typhon? And who's the Jedi that's going to come and help him? Could it be Luke Skywalker, which would be so cool? Could it be Obi-Wan's dead at this point? Yeah, could it be? I think it's going to be Luke Skywalker. I think they're going to go out with a bang here, and I think he's the perfect person to have him come. Or somebody else might come. Who knows? But they're building up to something really cool, and they have not disappointed once, so I can't wait. I just cannot wait. I just love The Mandalorian. And I think I'm going to do a retrospective with a friend on The Mandalorian, so we can go more in depth on these on this show, and look at the first season as well as the second season when it's finished. Now let's get to how do I discuss this in a fair and balanced way. We're going to talk about defund the police. I know this is a risky topic, but I want to try and look at it from both sides. Now, unfortunately, what has kind of happened is defund the police has become this subject that people think means abolish the police. And it doesn't necessarily mean abolish the police. It's the idea of re-envisioning the idea of the police, reallocating the resources. Now, if you look at the left, the side of the left, they see the police as somebody that's doing more harm than good. And when jobs were in need, police were sent instead. Mass incarceration, more of guardians to keep the peace, as opposed to people to help with problems. The way I've always seen it, as the police are supposed to be the people that help solve problems. They can't solve all of them, but they can try and solve as many as they can. That's always how I saw the police. But now we're seeing that the police are, people who are in custody are getting killed. So there's this problem, and we're seeing, a lot of weight being thrown around. So they want to take some of those, and they're also seeing these budgets all go to a police that's not really working. And people are really living in fear of the police. So that's why they're saying that we need to reallocate some of these resources and come up with our idea of the police, because the police are not capable of handling with subjects such as mental health. So how do we make the police the friendly face? I think that's what the left really wants with defund the police. Now on the other side, they see defunding the police as if you take money from them, they're going to not have the means to do any policing. And they feel like it would be almost abolishing it. And it would be allowing anarchy to rule. That people are going to commit more crimes, crime will rise. That's how they see it on the right. I believe they see it on this. I think that I may be wrong, but this is kind of, I'm trying to find the practical ideas of how both sides see it. One sees it as lawlessness will run amok. The other sees it as we need to change the idea of the police, and by doing that we need to take away some of the money that we're giving to the police. Whereas the others say, if we do that, you're going to lose the police entirely, because they're not going to have the money to do any policing. And there are arguments to be made on both sides. In some ways, I do think the police do need to be remade into a friendlier face. They should not be the people of fear. But on the other side, do we let looting and things like that continue to happen? We need somebody to take in these situations. And the only way to do that, my stomach just rumbled. The only way we can do that is by really, keeping them as the power of fear in some ways, but continuing to slowly change it. One, I think, wants to do something rapid, and the other kind of wants to ease into it. I could be wrong, but this is kind of how I see it. So, as I said, there are arguments to be made on both sides, but let's just get this out of the way right now. Defund the police does not mean abolish the police, even though that is what is they're trying to frame that. The media has done a wonderful job trying to frame defund the police as abolish the police without even saying it, but just kind of saying defund the police. Do you really want to see that? And when you throw that question out there, the thing that goes through your mind is like, oh, get rid of the police completely. But that's not what they want. What they want is to change the idea of what the police stand for. And the other side here, they think that will lead to just anarchy. So you got two ideas there. I don't know which is right. I think something in the middle is going to be the compromise that would work. I think we need to change the image of the police, but we can't just get rid of the police completely because lawlessness could run amok. We don't know. It hasn't been tested. It's a very radical, it could be a radical idea that could turn itself on its head and turn into a monster that we didn't think was going to happen and that we might not be able to control. We let the genie out of the bottle, but, can we get the genie back in the bottle? Sort of idea. So I see the arguments on both sides, but let's just make that firmly clear. Defund the police does not mean abolish the police. It means change the idea of police and reforming the police. But the other side says we don't want that because that would lead to lawlessness, because there won't be enough police and there won't be enough money to do it. Who's right and wrong? I don't know. I think that's up for you to decide. But It's certainly a topic that needs to be had and discussed, and it doesn't seem like it's being discussed. We're seeing one point of view and then the other point of view, and they both don't want to agree. We need to come together and find a mutual solution, because I think there's a lot of common ground here that we can make. So, that's what I've got to say about defund the police, and let's end with a nice little quote. And here it is. It's not from anybody special, it's just something I found. The pain you feel today will be the strength you feel tomorrow. Let's repeat that. The pain you feel today will be the strength you feel tomorrow. So it's similar to that last quote that I did 2 weeks ago. It may be hard now, but later you're going to be thanking yourself because you did the work then to prepare for the future. I think that's what that means. It's going to be hard. It's hard to get up the mountain. It's steep. You got to climb. But when you get up there, you're thankful you did it. And I think that's the same idea here. Do it. And then you'll be thankful you did do it. That you took the heavy steps. Same thing with this podcast. If I sat down and said, oh, it's going to take so much work, there's going to be all this editing, I don't know what I'm doing, what am I trying, I wouldn't do anything. But I realized I have something to say, and I want to say it, and I want to talk about films, and I want to talk about politics, and I want to talk about books, and I want to talk about wrestling, and I want to talk about all these different ideas. And this gives me a platform to do it. So start now, and then when you look back, what do I see? 40 episodes. So, at the end of this 40th episode, I want to say thank you for listening. As always, you can reach me at my name, Justin Yance, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Did I say Twitter? Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. It's kind of late here tonight, but I wanted to get this in, and I wanted to discuss this. So, thank you. And yes, 40 episodes. Let's do 40 more. And with that, I will see you next time on the DMF.